Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is episode number 266 of the Audible Farm podcast, and this episode is brought to you by the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association. Go to www.fdfineartsassociation.org to find out more. Make sure you check out the links at the top. There's one for their podcast. It's available anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's called FDT. We just recorded a new episode. I'll talk a little bit about that in the episode here, but thank you very much to the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association. This episode is a solo episode. I'm sitting down alone, and I'm just going to talk about a few things that have been happening lately. I'm not going to give away too much in the intro here, so let's get over to the episode.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
All right, so this is a solo episode. This one's going to be a little less, I want to say, lecture heavy. I'm not going to talk too much about marketing, and I'm not going to talk too much about what you can do to make your band noticed or anything like that. But this episode, I am going to give a few shout outs to some things that I've been doing. So I've been pretty busy lately. I'm playing music still, doing the whole thing with Jesse Wilson. He's out there crushing it, doing solo shows. When he needs a duo show or a full band or something, I join in. And there's very rarely times that I don't join him on these duo or trio or full band type shows. And this last weekend, there was one where I had actually had slated down to record a podcast instead of going to play a show with Jesse. He had kind of asked me last minute, and I'd already made plans. And that's about the only time. Most of the time, I would just kind of pass off something and go play the music because I like playing music. That's kind of what it's all about for me. But this was something I kind of had planned for a while, and it's kind of first come, first serve. Everyone will be understanding. I get it. But at the same time, you got to kind of do what you said you were going to do, and that's not always an easy thing to do. So that's what I did. I went out and did the thing that I said I was going to do, and I recorded a podcast. And it's not this podcast, mind you. I was a guest on a podcast, and I was a guest on the McAllister Hours. For those of you that are diehard listeners, you listen to every episode, you know everybody that's ever been on. You can name them all by name. This is Coleman McAllister, the McAllister Hours. Fun guy. I'll tell you what, I basically just met him through podcasting. I podcasted long enough, and he found my podcast, and we just kind of hit it off. I found out he was a musician of sorts. He did R&B rap, mostly rap. I wouldn't call it R&B, but he was a rapper. And so we kind of talked a little bit about that, but he was doing his own podcast at the time. And since then, and since this podcast kind of went away for a while, he actually had another podcast. And his other podcast was also very, very entertaining. I'm not sure if I am supposed to plug or not plug that other podcast he had. It's no longer in existence, but it was absolutely... it was wild. Let's just say it was wild. It's not for the faint of heart. But the McAllister Hours podcast, he's interviewed tons of people, from literal actual politicians running for actual things, like running for governor, or he's talked to people that have been in a lot of different things. It's just kind of cool to know that there's somebody out there kind of doing the sort of kind of the same thing I'm doing, and reaching a whole different audience and a whole different metric as well for people that he's interviewing. In the last year, this is basically all I've done for the most part is podcasting. And it's pretty wild to see the different varieties of podcasts that I help either produce, edit, record, things like that. But it's also kind of wild to see how their I want to say their audience, but their audience, it's weird to see how the audience interacts with that, especially, making shorts and things like that. It's kind of funny to know that, recently I had made a short of this podcast for something that I had said, and I just got absolutely roasted. I mean, just absolutely roasted sideways on the internet. Everyone hated me. But that's just whatever. That's just the way the internet works. You say one thing that has any inkling of an opinion that somebody might disagree with, and they're just going to be all like, blah, 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 and that's just how the world works. So I kind of laughed it off. I took it a little seriously, but in generality, if I was sitting back watching this all happen, it would be funny. So I kind of just rolled with the punches and went with it. But it is really neat to see how people interact with these different podcasts, because some of them are very professional and some of them are a little more I don't want to say like lax, but less pointed than others, and there was one I had recalled I had helped produce. I say help produce. I mean, I was the guy doing all the editing and uploading and all that stuff. I was doing all the behind the scenes work, everything but hosting and actually the direct producing, because I didn't actually get the guests together and I didn't, so anyways, these are just words. But yeah, it was crazy to sit there and have people talk about homelessness on a podcast, and they would like give stats and facts and things that were backed up by credible sources, and you would take those chunks and you turn them into reels, and the amount of people who either on one side or the other disagreed with it, and how not nice they always were about it. It was just kind of mind-blowing. I mean, I get it, it's the internet, that's how the internet works, but it was also kind of just weird to see all that firsthand coming through the channels that I help operate. So you just got to run damage control on those kind of things, but I don't know. So let's go back over the McAllister Hours. That's kind of what I was bringing up here. I've talked to Coleman before on my podcast. If you want to listen to some of the older episodes, I actually don't have the older episodes listed here of what episodes I did have. I could probably find them pretty quick, but yeah. So I've interviewed him before, again in a few different capacities, and it's nice to know that like he actually had the same thing happen on his podcast that I did on my podcast. So what I did was I just kind of like took a break, and that's basically the same thing he did. And, I get it. It's sometimes you just got to take a break from something. And, we had very similar numbers of episodes that had been released and things like that. But, it was kind of weird to see like, how our paths were similar, even though they were so different, even though they were very divergent of one another, they ended up still having sort of the same thing. But he fired his podcast back up just like I did, and away we go. So I got to go over there and sit and talk to him. By the way, the last times I talked to Coleman, it looks like it was episode 182 and episode 112 were the two, somewhere around the March of 2022 and October of 2020 dates, if you want to dig back through those and try and find any of those. But those were the episodes that I did with him. And I'll tell you what, it's fun to sit down and talk with them, because even though we like interact online, we don't really spend a whole lot of time like directly talking to each other about things. And crazy enough as it is, the most time we actually spend doing that is sitting down talking to each other on the podcasts that we have, like either on mine or on his. I've been on his a couple times, he's been on mine a couple times. And one of the things I think I like the most about Coleman is the fact that he's very true to himself. I guess that's like the kind and nice way to say it, but things, like I said, his old podcast was not for the faint of heart. It's the stuff like that. It's not like it's comedy that not everyone would like, but it's one of those things where, I feel like comedy's weird, because if a guy on stage at a club says it, it's like super funny. But if you're like sitting somewhere else with somebody, it might not be as funny. And that's, kind of like the avenue he leans into, is just trying to not necessarily do and say the things that are just like funny to him, but it's almost like everything's just a goofing inside joke of some capacity. I know I can go there and speak freely and have an opinion, and Coleman will also listen. He has his own opinion and I have my own opinion, and sometimes our opinions don't align. And I think that's one of my favorite things, is we can still have the conversation and like literally disagree and laugh our way through the whole conversation while we're doing it. Because even though like sometimes the topics are serious, I don't know, it's not like they don't matter, because they're serious. They're like, big boy topics. But at the same time, I don't know if it's really something that's worth getting that worked up over. I didn't go to his studio to sit there and be upset, and he didn't invite me over to be upset. We were just we knew what we were going to talk about. We had a couple very, very rough edged outlines of kind of just general gist what we were going to talk about. But that's the best kind of podcast as far as I'm concerned, is just being very general. You hit the hot topics, and everywhere in between you just fill in the holes. And it was fun to sit there and talk. Like, the one topic we bridged that was probably we talked about the longest, and it was probably the funnest, because we were both hitting each other with things that were like factual and other things that were just funny based on like either things we said or the other person had said. We were talking about like whether or not taxation is theft, and that's a fun one, because he had like made a reel about it on the internet. And the internet is just ruthless, because it's like people on one side yelling one thing and people on the other side yelling another, and then nobody agrees with anybody. And then before you know it, people are just yelling at each other over not even the original topic. And we talked about it on the episode. You're gonna have to go listen to the episode. I'll put a link down below to Coleman's podcast, the McAllister Hours. I'll make sure to put a link down below, at least to the YouTube channel as well. So go check that out on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, whatever, go just click over there as soon as you're done and check it out, because it's gonna be a blast. I believe the episode will come out by the time this episode comes out, but if it does not, just check back in. It'll come out eventually. He does a lot of Twitch streaming, things like that, but we were talking if is taxation theft, and that's a topic that is, again, a serious topic. That's not even something I would even want to bring up on my own podcast, and here I am. But if you want to hear me talk about it, that's where you can go. So that's something we did. We talked about managing a handful of different podcasts, how different that is, things that have changed, in my life. It's weird to be the one who's actually interviewed. I don't know if anybody out there listening has ever had any capacity of interviewing somebody, but for a lot of times when you ask somebody a question, you're just glomming onto things they say to try to find the next question that you're going to ask them, while still letting them finish and possibly adding in something of your own. But you have to remember that whatever you're adding in is not going to be more important than whatever they said, and it shouldn't be longer. And that's probably the thing it's like the toughest for me, is not adding too much stuff in. But it's weird to sit down and talk with somebody and the questions are pointed like at me, I did throw some questions back, which is also like kind of weird when you're the host and somebody's giving you questions and you're like, oh wow, this isn't about me. Don't talk about me. It's just kind of funny. But I had an absolute blast sitting down talking with Coleman. Again, it'd been too long, and it's fun to know that somebody out there has opinions, is okay saying the opinions, and is okay listening to somebody else's opinions. Because it's one thing to just say it, but it's another thing to actually listen to somebody else. And it doesn't mean he has to change his mind. It just means that he's there listening. And it's fun too, because when we posed the question and I saw it online, and I reached out to him, and I was like, I want to talk about this. It seems so black and white, and then by the time you talk to somebody, you're like, oh, okay, it's not as black and white as I thought it was. I still think I'm on my side, but they brought up some very good points. And if you'll find out, I couldn't give him a one-word answer for the very last question of his podcast. It was yes or no, only one word. I couldn't do it. So it's pretty wild to have that conversation with somebody that's that open. Again, like I said, he's had a whole lot of different podcasts. He does online Twitch streaming. He's got a degree in actual video production. His podcasts look clean. All of his streaming is fun. It's hilarious to watch him on there and just know that, like, I know this guy. He's just on the internet acting like a goof. He's playing Red Dead Redemption with like a little toy cowboy hat on. It's just super funny. I don't know. You got to go check it out. Check out his YouTube channel. Make sure you click on all the links everywhere to get everywhere to find all the Coleman McAllister stuff. Because I'll tell you what, the McAllister Hours, you got to check it out. You just got to listen in to believe what I'm saying. It's fun to know he's out there, and that he's got an open mind. I don't know. It just blows me away how people can just like take an opinion and just be like blah, 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 blah. It's like almost like an episode of South Park, like rabble. I don't know, whatever. It's so funny, and just to have somebody like him out there that's just saying what he wants to say, because it's either funny or it's just how he feels, and he knows that people aren't going to agree with him, and it's like doesn't matter because it's just the internet. Again, not trying to be harmful in any way. It's just really fun. It's a funny guy. Go check his stuff out. Again, links are down below for that. So thank you, Coleman, for letting me come on your podcast again. That's too awesome to be able to go on to somebody else's podcast. That is an opportunity I don't think I will ever squander. So along those lines, being on somebody's podcast is pretty fun. You know what else is pretty fun? Being on somebody's radio. Like, I had the opportunity this last week to be on K97. And I'm actually wearing the hat right now. They gave me a hat. Holy cow. Thank you so much. I'm a hat guy. They knew I was a hat guy, and they said, hey, I got something for you. And I said, sweet. So K97, Iowa's favorite country, that's located in Fort Dodge, based out of Fort Dodge. You can listen to it online anywhere. I will put the link down below, at least for Alpha Media. But I was on the Lunch Bunch, which is 11 to 1 ish is the schedule for that. We're on for about an hour from about 11 till noon or so, and then music filled out the last half, as it usually does. The lunch bunch is fun because it's Scott Kirkhart, it's your old pal Mason, the guy that's always on there. I love him, just such a good radio voice. He's such a good radio personality. The way that he just like kicks from one segment to the next, to knows how to like close things off, to knows how to ask the right questions, to add the right things in. It's amazing. I don't know. This is something I do as well, but it's fun to go into somebody else's world and just be like, yours is slightly different, and man, you're crushing it. So it's fun to be on that. So I just got to say big old thanks to Mason and to Scott Kirkhart for having me on the lunch bunch. And I do want to give a shout out as well to the person that I replaced for the week because they were out for the week and busy. It was Todd McCubbin. Todd McCubbin is on the lunch bunch. The fun part about that is that's maybe, I don't know directly, but it is sponsored by Shiny Top. And Shiny Top got us a pizza. We got a pizza on the air, which I know, I get it. Like if you listen to the lunch bunch, there's a lot of people that actually listen to the radio in offices and spaces like that. So there's a lot of people out there listening, but that have already heard this and already know. But for those that don't know, Shiny Top gives the lunch bunch a pizza and you can try it, and they usually have a weekly special, and that's usually the pizza they have. So I got to try was it Nashville hot chicken pizza, and it had obviously the chicken, the heat, maybe some sort of like honey or something along those lines, some pickles, but yeah, it was this sweet hot chicken pizza with pickles on it. It was absolutely amazing. They also had a tasteable drink there that was just like the smallest drink you could ever imagine, because obviously we're on the radio, so we're not just going to go out there and just get like 3 tall boys. But I didn't end up trying it. I had to go back to work, but it looked very good. All I know is I'm probably going to try and find a way to get back and grab one of those pizzas because it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I do like getting me some Shiny Top pizza when I'm there for a show. So if you've never been to a show at Shiny Top and you're like, I'm not really a brewery kind of person, just go there, get a root beer, get a pizza. You're going to love it. And if you're a brewery kind of person, then it's like couldn't be more up your alley. So thank you very much to K97. Thank you very much to Mason, to Scott Kirkhart, Todd McCubbin, everyone over at Alpha Media. I really do appreciate the opportunity to fill the airwaves with my voice. It's the same, but it's different. You know, a lot of this stuff none of this is live. So I have the opportunity to mess up and re-record, but a lot of times I just don't. I like to leave the live feel of everything in here. If there's too many cuts, it feels weird. If there's too many adjustments, it's weird. Or if there's, you know, when something happens, sometimes you're listening and you're like, oh, well, it's kind of weird the way that the conversation flowed. But I like to just act like everything's live. And that's what I think makes my podcast the way that it is even though sometimes there's some like dead spots in the conversation or possibly just some lulls compared to other spots, that's what this is. This is 2 people sitting down having a conversation for the most part. This one is unfortunately just me, but boy, I'll just talk your ear off if you let me, I guess. But yeah, the lunch bunch, if you guys have never heard of it, K97, Iowa's favorite country. I'm wearing the hat. Thank you for the hat again. I appreciate it. And go check their stuff out. I will have a link down below for the lunch bunch. And there's some past episodes on there. Mason's on there. He does interviews. Scott Kirkhart's on there. Again, the Shiny Top. They'll bring some pizza. It's just a little bit of fun, in the middle of the day. And I'm very, very fortunate and lucky that I was able to squeak away from my job for an hour. A little bit longer than an hour to be able to do this. So very fortunate, and I was very thankful. So that was such a fun experience. Again, I do want to just say, like, it's the same, but it's not. Being on the radio is super fun, but you know that it's live. Like whatever people are hearing, they're hearing it basically right now as you're saying it, they're hearing it, and there's no going back. But I guess the fun part is unless the episode gets uploaded, it's not going to be replayable, where with this it's at least replayable. So I don't know, there's pluses and minuses to all of it, but it was really fun to watch and know that the radio game is different. So like you have advertisers and you have to fill different slots and they have to play songs, and sometimes like those advertisers like, yeah, you can have a show, but it has to have music in it because that's going to be the driver for the advertising is the actual music that's being played. So we'll do, you have to play these songs, then you have to do this ad, and then you have to do this, and then we're kicking it back on the air, and then when you're on the air, like there's no like timer saying like, okay, we're done talking now, but Mason knows he's done this enough, and I get it. It's like, whatever, he's done it enough. It's just his job. Everybody should be good at their jobs if they do it enough, but he knows when the conversation is basically done and the topic has expired, and he hits it with the tagline that he did it every single time we went to a commercial break. Oh, that's kind of that's funny, something K97, and it's like, whoa, like it was so neat to know. I like watching it happen. You just like know what's happening. You're like, this is so cool to know that he's this good at this. So super cool. It's just fun to step outside of your domain and watch somebody do the same thing you're doing, but doing it different. Yeah, I bet it's similar to like a NASCAR race car driver versus somebody like a drag racer. Like somebody that's got one of the funny cars. It's like you're both driving cars, but it's different. And even though it's the same thing, it's not the same thing. So just pretty cool. Fun experience for me this week. So if you guys missed that, I will say, tune into the next Lunch Bunch. It's Tuesdays. Again, Tuesdays, 11 to 1 is the Lunch Bunch with Shiny Top. It's got Todd McCubbin in there and Scott Kirkhart talking to Mason, and usually a pizza is floating around somewhere. Not always, but yeah, Tuesdays, that's when that happens. And be sure to tune in, because there is an opportunity that I might swing on another episode if they didn't get their fill already. So if you don't get enough of me blabbing in your ear holes wherever you're listening to this, on a jog, in your car, tune into the radio. I'll be talking some more. It's super fun. I'm so glad I get to do this kind of stuff and just be recognized as somebody that does this and can do this. One of the other things I was talking with Mason about when I was talking to him after we were done after we were done being on the air, was the fact that he's also an MC, which is something that he does very well that I'm not as good at. And it was kind of fun to sit down and talk with him about the topic of like brevity, which is not something I would have imagined myself bridging the topic with somebody, because like right now I'm just vamping and filling time, and that's kind of what I'm good at. But if you just need to say the information and then you're done, get a couple plugs in there for a couple things. Again, like the transition from this is the topic to that's the topic. Like Mason's so good at that stuff. There's no ums, there's no uhs, there's no let's see here. It looks like this, he's just matter of fact. Here's the information. I want to say thank you to these guys. This is happening. If you need any of that, go over here and make sure you do this. And it's like, oh, nice. And again, that is his job. That's his full-time job. So he's very, very good at it. And thank you very much again, Mason, just for having the conversation with me. It's fun to bridge these topics with people that I normally wouldn't bring up to other people, because it's not like they wouldn't understand, but it's just easier to talk to somebody that is in that capacity and kind of pick their brain. It's like, man, you're like a leveled up version of kind of the thing I do, and it's kind of neat to just pick their brain. So cool. Thank you very much. Your old pal Mason. He's been on the podcast before. Scott Kirkhart's been on the podcast before. These are names So like if you want to listen to us on the radio live over lunch, 11 o'clock Tuesdays. No, excuse me. We're on at noon on Tuesdays. I've said at 11. I was over there at noon. We were on the air. Noon to 1. Boy, almost screwed that one up. That's why it's good to go back and edit. But guess what? I'm not going to do it, because that's the fun part of the podcast. Hopefully you didn't tune out noon, but tune in at 11. I don't care. You listen to another hour of country. It seems to be what everybody likes anyways. So you might as well. I do also want to say that we recorded another episode of FDT. We got it just ahead of schedule. Shelly's so good at scheduling things out. Shelly's the host, Shelly Bodor, Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association. I talked about it very, very tiny bit in the intro, but yeah, she does all the work over there, all the heavy lifting. I mean, again, I'm doing the editing and uploading, but as far as I'm concerned, to do all the coordination, to make this all, plan it all out with things that are happening, she's very good at that. So hats off to her. It's super fun. These episodes, last episode I did a compilation of the first 5 episodes, and I feel like I don't know. Their podcasts are so different. Every episode is so wildly different from the next one. Some of them are educational. Some of them have historic value. Some of them are like a time capsule. Some of them are friends goofing off. Some of them we're talking about serious things and we're just having a laugh fest over the whole time. Some of them we crack a few drinks. Some of them we don't. Sometimes we're in a bar. Sometimes we're not. It's just so fun to kind of just go from one episode to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And just kind of, you're going to get the same thing, but it's just going to be in a different frame every single time. And I absolutely love that about FDT. It's so fun. I think I liken it to being on the Lunch Bunch, where it's just kind of like, I get the ability to go into somebody else's world that they've created. This is their program, and I get to sit there and be a part of it. It's so fun to be there and not have to worry about having all of the stress of making everything all on my own. There's somebody else there driving the content. And I think that's just so fun to be able to be involved in that some capacity. And I think that's one reason I enjoy doing my job. It's a lot of work. It's tedious at times. It's a lot of intercommunication between people to get literally 8 podcasts off the ground and running every single month. I get it. It's like, maybe it's a monthly podcast, but I got a couple weekly podcasts. I got a couple semi-weekly podcasts. I got a couple semi-monthly podcasts, bi-weekly, semi-monthly. Yes. But I've got a few of those, it's like everything I'm making a lot of content, and it's just so fun to have the ability to go somewhere else on somebody else's show and utilize their platform and let them make the content. It's just, I don't know, it's just super fun, and I'm glad. I'm very, very happy that I have these opportunities, and I'm glad that I'm invited along on these things. So thank you very much for that. This FDT episode we just recorded, I would say only a couple episodes that we've recorded so far would compete with this one for the amount of laughs, just the amount of sheer laughs that were involved in this episode. It is absolutely hilarious to just kind of, I don't know. Again, these episodes to record, it's fun. I just laugh so much, and then I go back through and I have to edit them, and it's like, do I edit any of this stuff out? But it's like, some of this is gold. Some of this is gold. We're just sitting down having a good time, and I don't want to cut out anything that's fun. Obviously, I don't want to put anyone on the spot and make them uncomfortable and have things recorded that they don't want. But I don't know. It's just, there's something about having these like possibly embarrassing topics come out for a second. You're just going to have to tune in. You're just going to have to tune into the next Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association podcast. It's called FDT. Their link is down below. You can click on the website, and it's right in the sponsor section. Just click on it, and off you go. So thank you very much for, Shelly, for setting all that up, getting it all ready, working with my time schedule as well as hers and as well as the guests. This is 3 working people that all have hobbies and interests and lives, trying to coordinate all this. And sometimes Shelly's doing it with 2, 3, 4 other people. So hats off. That is not easy. That is not an easy task to do. As a matter of fact, that is the last topic I'm going to leave everyone with. Make sure you check out the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association podcast. But coordinating things with people is not easy. It is not an easy thing to do. And that's something that I have definitely struggled with recently while I have had other things come up in my life. And it's this is not about like, oh, what's going on in your life and things are tough or whatever. But like, it's just tough when you already have everything set out and is so rigid where it's like, I have minuscule amounts of free time and I'm going to make the maximum out of them. And then when it comes time to actually like give up that free time to do something extra that you hadn't originally planned on, that just needs to get done, it's always kind of tough. So I've had a lot of those things popping up lately in my life, and that's not an excuse as to why there hasn't been an actual guest on the podcast for the last like almost month. But yes, the podcast episodes are still coming out. People are still listening to them. So thank you guys very much. I've heard some people say that like if it's a replay episode, they listen to the intro and fast forward and listen to the outro because they've already heard the whole interview before. That is absolutely wildly hilarious to me, that people are just like, I don't know, I just want to see what you say for 5 minutes and then I'm out of here. What do you got to say about the guest? What do you got to say about something coming up or whatever, So yeah, communication, always tough. I always try my best, but again, I'm not the best at it. And it's tough when you have a shortfall come in there. And believe it or not, this topic came up on the McAllister Hours podcast. Coleman was talking about how he likes a lot of communication. And I guess I'm somebody that does too, but I'm also somebody that like if I can have as little communication as possible and then just trust everybody follows through with what they said, I'm okay with it. Like, are we going to be here on this day 2 months from now at this time at that place? Yes. That's it. Like, I don't have to have somebody double check with me to be like, are you going to be there tomorrow? You know, like, I don't want to reach out and double check that. Oh, are you sure this is happening? But at the same time, I understand the comfort level of having that in there. So, yeah, because I mean, too many times you just trust somebody, then you show up and you wait and you're like, they're not here, and you call them and they're like, oh, I forgot. So I guess not everybody has their days chiseled out and like rigidly scheduled like I do. But you know, that's just the way it is. So as free time does start to open up, I did have a couple people recently post on an episode saying they would like to come on, and it's 2 people I haven't had on before. And so I've got people to talk to. I've got people I need to like get a hold of and get on the podcast. I just need to actually do it and chisel out some more time to do it. I just know there's a lot of moving parts right now in the background between work and this and music. So I'm just trying to get everything ironed out, and then we'll just continue on with our regularly scheduled programming. But yes, episodes are still going to come out every week, whether that's a replay episode where I just kind of do a little recap of something and go, or whether that's going to be like it was last week where I just take a few minutes of the first 5 episodes of FDT. If you haven't listened to that episode, I've actually had people that have never reached out to me before to say they liked that and they were going to go check out some of the full episodes just to go see who was on it. And I purposefully only did the first 5 because there's some people on there that are like legit actually famous. There's some people on there that I don't know. There's been a wild assortment of people on FDT. So if you haven't ever checked that podcast out, I know I talk about it every week, but totally worth checking out. If you enjoy this podcast in any capacity, you will absolutely love that one as well. I promise. But yeah, that's all I really have. Recently on the McAllister Hours, check me out on the Lunch Bunch. Again, that's Tuesdays, lunchtime, and lunchtime is noon to 1. So yes. Showed up there 11:50, hopped on just after the noon bell rang, and we talked about some pizza and some music. And bless his heart, Scott Kirkhart was wearing an Audible Farm hat. You guys couldn't see it on the radio, I'm guessing, but it was there and it was mentioned. So thank you, Mason, and your old pal Mason, and thank you to Scott Kirkhart for the shout out for the podcast on the air. That is super cool. So if you guys are looking for anything else this week, audiblefarm.com is basically where you can find everything. That's the website, at Audible Farm. All the social media is basically everywhere you listen. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. We're going to kick it over to the outro, and I'm basically just going to repeat what I just said, and then the episode's over. So let's go to the outro. All right, there we go. This is the end of the episode, and I don't have a whole lot else to say. Audiblefarm.com. Make sure you check out Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association stuff down below. FDT, great podcast, talking about arts in the community, super fun. Be sure you check out Coleman's podcast when I'm on there. Make sure you check it out. Go back, listen to some older episodes. The McAllister Hours is the name of that one. I'm going to put a link down below to Coleman's YouTube. So there will be a few links down below. I'm going to have the McAllister Hours YouTube channel down there. I'll have the Lunch Bunch site on there, so you guys can check out the Lunch Bunch and see what that's all about. FDT, that's on the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association's website. That's down below in the comment or in the description section of wherever you're listening or watching as well. And below all of that is all the Audible Farm nonsense. So if you guys like TikTok, and go check it out. Find some of the reels I've been posting over on Facebook or Instagram, or the shorts on YouTube, or wherever you guys listen or watch or whatever. That's where the content is, because we like to be wherever you guys are. And if you guys ever have anything you want to let me know, just you could contact me on the website there. There's a contact page. The email's listed just about everywhere as well. So check that out. Thank you guys very much for joining me for an episode that's just a solo episode. These ones are like little humble episodes that get modestly listened to. And if you made it this far, my hats are off to you. Actually, I'm not taking this hat off ever. This K97 hat is awesome. So thank you, Cadence, for the hat, by the way. Cadence was the one that got me the hat. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. We will check you guys. I'll check you guys next week. All right. Peace.